and a half away somewhere.
Alright, today we are going to take a look at writing out two-column proofs to prove that two triangles are similar. Right? Now, we've looked at three ways to prove that triangles are similar. Right? Angle, angle, where if we can just show that two pairs of angles are congruent, we can say the triangles are similar. Side, 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 where if we can show that all three pairs of sides are proportional, then the triangles are similar. And side, angle, side, where if two pairs of sides are proportional, is angle, angle. Because it's going to be, most of the time, it's going to be easiest to show that two pairs of angles are congruent. Okay? These other ones will show up sometimes, but the most common one will be angle, angle. Okay? So, right after I say that, we're going to start with one that's not angle, angle. Okay? So, for number one here, let's write out our two columns. Remember, statements go on the left, reasons go on the right. So now, if we look at these two triangles that we're given, right, I'm first given that MN over PR is equal to ON over QR. So I'm given a nice proportion here. I'm given that two pairs of sides are proportional. So the way that we'll write that in the proof is just we're given this information. And I'm given this proportion. Well, then I'm also given that angle N is congruent to angle R. And that is the pair of angles that's in between these two proportional sides. And I'm just given that. So I can claim that I have two pairs of sides proportional and the pair of angles that's in between them congruent. That's actually enough to prove that these triangles are similar. So in this first example, we're just given everything we need. Okay, I don't have to search for anything else. So now, since I have two pairs of sides proportional, MN over PR is equal to ON over QR and the angle in between, then I can claim what I want to prove. I can claim that triangle MNO is similar to triangle PQR. So what would be my reason here? Side, angle, side. Questions so far? Okay, so let's then take a look at another example where we're not given everything we need, right? Where we have to find some piece of information here. So on number 2, we are given one thing, right? We're given that angles S and W are congruent. Because it's small. You can if you want. You can certainly use that one down there, but I just thought it was kind of cramped. So we can start with our given. Angle S is congruent to angle W. That's going to be given. So I've got one pair of angles congruent. Right? So most of the time, when we have to look for information, we're looking for angles that are congruent. Just looking at this diagram, is there another pair of angles that I know for sure would have to be congruent? Sebastian?
SUV and TW.
Exactly. These two here in the middle. So since there are multiple angle U's, Sebastian named them using 3 letters, which is what we want to do here. We can't just say angle U is congruent to angle U because those are different angles. So we can say angle SUV is congruent to angle WUT. Now, what would be my reason for that? Why are those two angles congruent? Because they're vertical angles, right? Alright, so now I have two pairs of angles congruent. That's enough to say that these triangles are similar. So now we can say triangle SUV is similar to triangle TUW. What would be my reasoning? Angle. Yep. So remember, when we get down to the final step, when we're claiming that the triangles are similar, it's always going to be one of these three, right? Angle, side, side, or side, angle, side. So we just have to look back at what we did. Well, we showed that two pairs of angles were congruent. Well, that means we're using angle. Okay. Questions? All right, let's do one more together, and then have you guys try some. So on the third example here, all I'm given is that AB and DC are parallel. Okay, so we'll start with that. That'll be my first line of my proof. AB is parallel to DC. That's given. So now I need to look for congruent angles. If I know that these two lines are parallel, what congruent angle relationships could I find in this picture? Yeah? I can find some corresponding angles. Which ones? And this angle here would be congruent. Now, since there are multiple angle D's, we would have to name this one using 3 letters. So we could just name angle A using 1 letter, since there's no question there's only one angle A. But then to correctly name this one, we could call it EDC. And Gavin just told us that's because those are corresponding angles. Okay. So we've got one pair of angles congruent. What else? We need at least 2 pairs of angles.
Angles B or angle B and angle C are congruent.
Okay, so we could also say this pair here would be congruent for the same reason, right? So angle B is congruent to, and now just like the last one, there's a couple of angle C's, so we need to make sure we're being specific here. So we can say angle B is congruent to angle ECD. We'd have to name that one using 3 letters. And this one would also be corresponding angles. So I've shown that 2 pairs of angles between these 2 triangles are congruent. I'm done. I can now say that the triangles are similar. So triangle ABE is similar to triangle DCE. What would my reasoning be? Which one? Angle. Okay. Now, we could have done something slightly different for this one. I mean, what we did is 100% correct, but another way that we could have gone, instead of using one of these pairs of corresponding angles, we could have said, well, these two triangles share an angle. They share angle E. So we could have actually, instead in here, we could have put that angle E is congruent to angle E. Why am I allowed to say that something's congruent to itself? What was the name of that property? Reflexive property. Yep. So instead of using one of these pairs of corresponding angles, we could have said angle E is congruent to itself by the reflexive property. Right, so there were a couple of correct ways that we could have done this one. Right. Questions? All right, so on the back then, right, none of these are ones that you have to write entirely yourself. These are all fill-in missing pieces ones, okay? Most of the time on the air test and on our chapter test over this stuff, we will just have fill-in-the-blank type proofs, okay? It won't be write the whole thing yourself. It'll be maybe drag and drop or just fill in one missing piece for a multiple choice question, that kind of thing, okay? So, let's see if we can take a little bit and try some of these. Okay, see if we can fill in our missing pieces.
Flip fell asleep for some reason.
Wake it up.
That's why I'm staying up.
I said,
No, I've
from
got
block to block.
Cameras on.
All right, I think for the
Hey,
most
watch
part,
the video
those
online. See my
went
face.
pretty well. Do you guys have a specific one or two that you want me to take a look at, or should I just pick one or two? Number 9?
8 and 9.
8 and 9? All right, let's do 8 and 9. We should have time for both of those here. Oops. Sure, yeah.
Those are the only two I don't got.
All right, let's do 8 and 9
That's
then.
some ballooning.
So on number 8,
That's some big balloon animal.
on number 8, I'm given that these two lines are parallel.
It's like the most times someone in anyone else is.
So my first, guys, come on.
I'm still young.
My first line. My first line would just be that given information that those two lines are parallel. Well, I'm going to look all the way down at line 3 here and see what other angles they want me to fill in. So they tell me that angle G is congruent to angle JHI. So that would be these two angles are congruent. Those two angles are corresponding angles. So those are congruent because they are corresponding. Well, now I need to come up with another pair of angles that are congruent. Well, I could just say the other pair of corresponding angles over here would have to be congruent. So we could say there's only one angle K, so I could say angle K is congruent to angle, and I would have to name this using 3 letters.
I'm making that much.
So I could call it IJH, and my reason here would also be corresponding angles. Well, now I've shown 2 pairs of angles congruent, therefore the triangles are similar by angle. Just like the example that we did though, instead of using this pair of corresponding angles, we could have said angle I is congruent to angle I by the reflexive property. Alright? So now, in number 9, we start with our given. So again, I'm given a pair of parallel lines. So we can say MQ is parallel to OP. That's given. Well, then they tell me angle QMN. So QMN is this angle right here. Has to be congruent to OPN. This angle down here. If these two lines are parallel, then these two angles are alternate interior angles. So my reason here for why these are congruent would be alternate interior angles. want to look for another pair of congruent angles. And again, we actually have two options here. Maybe the more recognizable one is that whenever we have angles across from each other like this, they have to be congruent because they are vertical angles. So I'll fill in that angle MNQ is congruent. So that's not a Q. Angle MNQ is congruent to angle PNO because they are vertical angles. And then a lot of you did actually, in the last line here, there is no triangle GIK or HJI up here. So that was actually a typo. So we could say triangle MNQ is similar to triangle PNO. And our reasoning, since I showed two pairs of angles congruent, would be angle, angle,